Welcome to Science for Sleepy Minds. I'm glad you're here, and if you're listening from a soft, half-lit place of tiredness, if your thoughts feel a little frayed at the edges, you don't need to fix anything right now. You can simply arrive as you are. Let the day be finished, at least for the moment. Let your body have its turn to rest. Tonight, we'll move gently through a quiet kind of science. Not the science of alarms and bright screens, but the science of small, patient clues. The silent evidence left behind by the first humans. Not a loud story, not a dramatic one. More like a faint trail across deep time. A collection of tiny marks that say, in the softest way, someone was here, and you don't have to keep hold of every detail. You don't have to remember names or dates. You don't even have to stay awake. If sleep comes, you can let it take you. The story will keep unfolding at its own calm pace, like waves returning again and again to the shore, whether you're listening closely or drifting gently above it. This space is for relaxation and learning woven together loosely, like a comfortable blanket that doesn't need to be tucked in perfectly. You can let information pass through you without gripping it. You can let curiosity be quiet, just a small lantern in the mind, not a floodlight. If you'd like to support the channel, you can like the video or subscribe, and if that feels like too much effort, you can ignore it completely. There's no pressure here, only rest. Now, let's help your body settle, one small breath at a time. Take a slow inhale, not forced, not measured, just easy. And let the exhale be longer, like a sigh you don't need to explain. Again, a gentle inhale and a softer, slower release. As you breathe, you might notice the places your body holds the day. Sometimes it's the forehead, where thoughts crease themselves into quiet lines. Sometimes it's the jaw, holding on as if it had a job to do. Sometimes it's the shoulders, lifted a little, as if still bracing. Let your forehead smooth, just a fraction. Let your eyebrows loosen. If your eyes are closed, let them rest in their sockets, heavy and unbothered. Let your jaw unclench, as if you're setting down a small weight you forgot you were carrying. Let your shoulders drop, not all at once, but as if they've been given permission. Let the muscles around your neck soften. Let the breath travel down into your chest, and then down, lower, into the belly, where breathing can feel like a slow tide. If your hands are tense, let your fingers curl or uncurl in whatever way feels easiest. If there's a tightness in your chest, you don't have to chase it away. Just give it space like you would give space to a quiet cloud passing across the moon. Let your legs grow heavy in the bed. Let your calves relax. Let your feet let go. So a kind of comfortable heaviness, like sinking into warm sand that shapes itself around you with no effort. And as you settle, you can picture yourself drifting. Perhaps you're floating on a calm sea at night, held by gentle waves that don't hurry anywhere. Or you're a small boat rocking softly, tied safely at a quiet dock. Or you're lying beneath a sky of slow-moving clouds, watching them drift without needing them to become anything. You might imagine warm light too, lantern light, starlight, ember glow. The kind of light that doesn't demand attention. The kind that simply says, you're here and you're safe, and the night is allowed to be slow. Now, in that slow light, let's begin to picture a place. Imagine a quiet landscape far from the bright edges of a city. Somewhere open, somewhere old. It could be a desert plain with smooth stones scattered like sleeping animals. Or a grassy steppe where wind moves through low plants like a long breath. Or the mouth of a rocky cave, dark and cool like the inside of a held-in secret. Above you the night sky is wide and patient. Stars are scattered with gentle indifference, not cold, not harsh, simply present. The air is cool enough to make you feel awake for a moment, and then calm enough to let you soften again. Somewhere in the distance you might hear a faint insect song, a small sesco, steady rhythm that makes the silence feel friendly. The ground beneath you is quiet. It holds dust and sand and small pieces of stone. And if you look closely, the ground holds something else too. Time layered in fine grains. Stories that are not spoken. Evidence that doesn't shout. Now imagine just for a moment that the same stars were above the first humans. The same slow-turning sky, the same distant light arriving from far away. Time is deep, yes, but the sky can make it feel close. The night sky is a kind of bridge. It links your breathing air, now, to a breathing that happened long ago, beside a small fire, beside a pile of stones, beside a path of footprints that would one day harden into a message. The evidence we're focusing on tonight is not loud. It's subtle, like footprints that only appear when the light is low and angled just right. In the harsh light of midday, they might be invisible. But in the soft light of morning or evening, the shallow impressions become shadows, and the shadows become meaning. This is what archaeologists and paleoanthropologists do in a way. They learn to notice the shadows. They learn to listen with their eyes and hands. They listen to stones, soils, bones, ash, and tiny fragments. They listen to what remains when voices are gone. And the main question will follow, like a gentle thread, is simple. How do we know the lives of the first humans from what they quietly left behind? We'll start with something familiar. Objects, tools, the kind of things you might hold every day without thinking about them. Think of a kitchen knife in your drawer. It has a certain weight. It fits your hand in a particular way. Maybe it has tiny scratches on the blade, marks of vegetables chopped and meals made. Or think of a favourite spoon, the one that feels just right, worn smooth by time and washing and use. These objects are ordinary, but they carry small stories. They carry habits. They carry a shape that comes from repeated choices. A stone tool is like that in its own ancient way. It may look simple, but it holds fingerprints of thought. Not literal fingerprints most of the time, though sometimes even those can survive in rare conditions, but fingerprints in the sense of decisions. Someone chose a stone, someone struck it, someone shaped it to do a job, and in that shaping something human appears. Stone tools are some of the oldest, most common traces of early human life. Stone lasts. It doesn't rot like wood. It doesn't dissolve like skin. It doesn't disappear like a footprint in loose dust. It can rest in the earth for hundreds of thousands of years, for millions sometimes, and still carry the sharp edges of intention. When you hold a stone tool in your imagination, you can picture it as quiet handwriting. A message made not with ink, but with force and angle and patience. To understand that message, it helps to understand something simple about stone. Many kinds of stone break in predictable ways. When you strike certain stones, like flint or chert or obsidian, the fracture can ripple out like a small wave. It creates a curved break, almost like the inside of a shell. This is called conchoidal fracture, a long and gentle phrase that you don't need to keep. You can just remember the feeling of it. The idea that stone can break in a way that makes a sharp edge. Picture it slowly. A person holds a stone core in one hand, another stone in the other. They choose where to strike, not anywhere. Somewhere specific. They tap or strike, and a flake pops off. That flake might have a sharp edge finer than you might expect, a sharpness that can cut plant fibers, scrape hide, slice meat, shape wood. That single flake is already a tool, a small clean edge in the palm, and even if it is used only once, it still counts, it still matters. The evidence of a choice, why those particular stones, why not just any rock? Because some stones are better at becoming sharp, some are too crumbly, some shatter in messy ways, some are too yet, but flint-like stones have a dense, fine-grained structure. They hold together, they break with grace, they offer edges that can be controlled. So part of what we learn from stone tools is that early humans did not simply pick up whatever was closest. Often, they sought certain stones. They transported them. They returned to sources. They knew in their bodies and minds the feel of a good stone. It's a little like choosing fabric, isn't it? You don't sew a warm blanket from brittle paper. You choose something that drapes, something that holds. In a quiet way, selecting the right stone is selecting comfort, efficiency, possibility. And then there are different kinds of tools, each one answering a different need. Some flakes are simply used as cutters, like ancient disposable knives. Some are shaped into scrapers, with a thicker edge that can remove material steadily, like cleaning a surface. Some become points, narrower and more focused. Perhaps for hunting tools or for piercing. You don't need to picture an entire catalogue. You can just sense the variety, the way a single material stone can become many gentle solutions, a sharp edge for one job, a sturdy edge for another, like having different utensils in a drawer, all designed to help a small life move through a day. As tool-making develops, it becomes more than striking a flake and using it. It becomes planning. In some tool traditions, people shape a piece of stone again and again, removing flakes carefully until the core itself becomes the tool, symmetrical and reliable. This takes skill. It takes practice. It takes a sense of future use. You can't rush it without ruining it. And practice suggests something else. Learning. If you've ever tried to learn a craft, even a simple one, you know the feeling. Your hands want to do the right motion, but they don't yet know it. You make mistakes, you try again. Over time, your muscles learn the rhythm. Your eyes learn what to look for, your mind learns how to anticipate the result. Early toolmaking is like that. It likely involved watching, imitating, correcting, teaching, even if it was not formal. A skilled person's hands guiding a younger person's hands. A community of knowledge passed on without written words. And the traditions change slowly. Over long stretches of time, tool styles shift. Edges become more refined. Shapes become more standardized. Methods become more efficient. Not because anyone announced a new era, but because minds and hands and needs drifted, and small improvements accumulated like layers of dust settling. You can hold that as a gentle wonder. The idea that across deep time, in small daily repetitions, knowledge moved forward. Not in a rush, not in a straight line, more like a river finding its path. Now, let's make the scene softer. Imagine a night like the one we began with. The stars overhead, the air cool but not harsh. Nearby a small fire, not roaring, not threatening, just a contained circle of warmth. In its light, hands move, stone in palm, a small strike, a tap, another. The sound is not loud, just a dry click, like two pebbles meeting. And in that click, a flake turns loose, glittering briefly, then settling into the lap. Slowly, patiently, a sharp edge appears, and that edge will cut something tomorrow, or scrape something, or shape something. It will help with food, with shelter, with survival, gently understood, not dramatized. It will make life a little more possible. How many careful breaths went into a single sharp edge? How many quiet pauses? How many moments of looking, adjusting, trying again? And if that question feels too bright, too awake, you can let it float away like a leaf on water. You don't have to solve it. You can simply let it be a soft curiosity resting beside you. Now, from stone we drift to something even more familiar. Warmth. Think of the comfort of warmth in your own life. Maybe the warmth of a blanket fresh from the dryer, heavy and kind. Maybe the warmth of a cup held between your hands. Maybe the warmth of a heater clicking on in winter, the air slowly changing from cool to gentle. Or perhaps you remember candlelight. A small flame that makes the room feel calmer, as if it has softened the corners, or a campfire. Not the loud kind with sparks flying, but the quiet kind that settles into embers and hums softly. Fire has been one of humanity's oldest comforts, a steady companion in dark hours, a circle of safety not because it is dramatic, but because it changes things. It brings light, it brings heat, it brings the feeling of being gathered. And like stone tools, traces of fire can last. Not the flame itself, of course. Flames are restless. They disappear quickly, but what they leave behind can stay for a very long time. Ash, for example. Tiny particles of what was once wood or plant matter, now changed, now pale, now quiet. Charcoal too, black and brittle, like a piece of night kept in the hand. Sometimes soil itself changes colour from heat. It can redden as minerals shift. Sometimes bones are burned, altered by warmth. When archaeologists find these traces, they look carefully. They ask, is this fire made by nature like a lightning fire or a wildfire? Or is it controlled? Is it repeated? Is it contained? Because a hearth, a controlled fire, often leaves a pattern, a small circle, a concentration of ash and charcoal in one place, evidence that the fire was tended, built, used, perhaps burned at different times, building layers. And layers are such a soothing idea, aren't they? Imagine the ground as a slow notebook, written in dust and ash. A fire is lit one night. It burns down. Ash settles. Dust covers it over days and weeks. Then another fire is lit. Another layer. Over time, thin pages accumulate. Not paper pages, but pages made of earth. And in those pages, the story of warmth is pressed gently down. When scientists excavate, they read those layers like a calm storybook. They can see where the heat was, how often it happened, whether it changed position, whether people returned to the same spot again and again, as if the place itself had become familiar. Fire suggests so many things. It suggests light for evening work. It suggests warmth for cold times. It suggests protection from some animals, yes, but we don't need to focus on fear. We can focus on comfort. We can focus on the way warmth gathers bodies together. Fire also changes food. Cooking can make certain foods softer, easier to chew, easier to digest. It can release nutrients. It can reduce the energy cost of eating. And that matters for a brain that uses a lot of energy, for a body that needs to travel, for a life that depends on small advantages. Even if the details slip away, you can hold the simple idea. Warmth changes things. Warmth makes life easier. And then there's another quiet suggestion. A hearth is not just a tool. It can be a center. Imagine a group of people in the dark, the night wide around them. Without a fire, there's only the cold and the starlight. With a fire, there is a small island of brightness, a place to sit, a place to rest, a place to share food, a place to look at each other's faces, a place to be together without needing words. Maybe stories were told, maybe not. Maybe there was laughter, Maybe there was silence, but even the silence would feel different in the presence of warmth. You can see the embers pulsing like sleepy red stars on the ground, breathing slowly in their own way, the fire's last light turning into a gentle memory. If you had one small circle of warmth in a cold world, who would you invite close? Who would you want beside you? Let that question be tender, not demanding. It doesn't need an answer. It can simply be a soft human feeling. And as you listen, if you notice your own body craving warmth, you can imagine it. Imagine the bed as a warm hearth, the blanket as a protective ring. Imagine your chest rising and falling like embers slowly, steadily. Now, from stone and ash, we drift into something even quieter. The body itself and the way it stores time. Think of your own teeth for a moment. You don't have to touch them. Just remember, teeth are small, hard and persistent. They carry evidence of living. Tiny wear marks from chewing. Perhaps a chip from biting something too hard. Perhaps dental work, a record of modern care. Your teeth know things about your days even if they never speak them. Bones and teeth from long ago hold stories too in their own language. A language of structure and chemistry and wear. They're not perfect records and they're not always found, but when they are, they can be like quiet libraries. Bones grow, they heal, they respond to stress. If an injury happens and heals, it suggests time passed. It suggests the body was able to rest long enough to mend. Sometimes it even suggests care from others. Again, we don't have to go into anything grim, we can stay gentle. The simple truth is that healing is a kind of evidence. It's proof that life continued. Teeth too carry subtle clues. The enamel on teeth is very hard, and it forms in layers as you grow. Once formed, enamel doesn't remodel like bone does. It preserves its early history in tiny lines like tree rings. Sometimes those lines show periods of stress or illness. Sometimes wear patterns show what kinds of foods were chewed. A diet of tough plants might leave different marks than a diet of softer foods. Grit from windblown dust can scratch enamel over time. The environment writes itself into the mouth, quietly. And then there is chemistry, which can sound complicated, but can be held in a simple metaphor. Elements come in different forms called isotopes. You don't need the details. You can think of isotopes as different flavors of the same ingredient. Like two kinds of honey, both honey, but each shaped by where it came from. Water, plants, tares, and animals carry these subtle flavors. And when you eat and drink, your body incorporates them. Some of these chemical signatures can become part of your bones and teeth. Later, scientists can measure them and infer things about where someone lived, what kinds of foods they ate, what kind of landscape they moved through. It's like tasting the faintest hint of a place, preserved across time. A sip of an ancient river, not in your mouth, but in a number in a lab, translated back into a story. There's also ancient DNA sometimes, not always. It doesn't preserve easily, and when it does, it's handled with great care. Ancient DNA can help map relationships, migrations, lineages, but it's never a loud announcement. It's more like a quiet note found in an old pocket. Useful but incomplete. A clue, not a whole biography, and that's important. Science is patient and humble here. It doesn't pretend to know everything. It gathers fragments. It compares. It cross-checks. It holds uncertainty gently, like holding something delicate in the palm. Bones and teeth then become quiet libraries. Not libraries of paper and ink, but libraries of mineral and protein and tiny structures, each one holding a few shelves of information, enough to suggest a life in motion. If you let yourself drift into the metaphor, you might picture each bone as a book with pages made of time, a rib that remembers breathing, a leg bone that remembers walking, a tooth that remembers chewing. The body is a gentle historian. What would your bones say about the places you've wandered, about the chairs you've sat in, about the paths you've walked? Again, you don't need to answer. You can imagine the question dissolving into the softness of your pillow, leaving only a calm sense that you are part of a long story too. And as your mind listens, your body can continue to sink. Let your shoulders be heavy. Let your breath be easy. Let your thoughts slow down like a clock that has decided it can rest. We've moved through stone and ash and bone. In each one, the evidence is quiet but steady, a trail that doesn't need words. And as we continue later, we'll let that trail lead us into something deeply intimate and strangely gentle. Footprints, paths, moments pressed into earth. For now, you can simply stay with this feeling. A lantern glow in a wide night. A few stones shaped by patient hands. A small circle of warmth, remembered in ash. A quiet library held in enamel and bone. You don't have to hold it all. You can let it drift. You can let it fade around the edges, like embers dimming as the night deepens. And if sleep is arriving soft and certain, you can let it take over from here. Your only job is to rest. Your only task is to breathe. Slow in and slower out. The past is quiet. The room you're in is quiet. And you're safe here, in this gentle darkness, with nothing asked of you at all. If you're still awake, I'm right here with you. And if you've drifted a little and come back again, that's completely fine. You don't need to catch up. Just let your body stay heavy in the bed. Let your breathing be simple. Slow in and slower out. We've been moving through quiet traces. Stone shaped by careful hands. Ash that remembers warmth. Bones and teeth that hold time like a soft library. Now, very gently, we'll let our attention travel to something even more delicate and strangely intimate. Footprints. You've probably seen them in ordinary places. In wet sand near the waterline, where the sea smooths everything away, and then suddenly, for an hour or two, there are steps. Or in a dusting of snow on a sidewalk where each footprint is a brief signature. Or on a dusty floor where someone crossed the room and you can almost feel the moment behind it. There's something tender about footprints. They don't tell you a name, they don't announce a story, they simply say, someone passed through here. And because they are so ordinary, they can feel close. They can make time feel smaller. A footprint is not a monument, it's not a grand structure. It's a moment pressed into the earth by a weight and a balance and a single decision to move forward. For early humans, footprints were made every day, all the time, and most of them vanished quickly. Wind softens edges, rain fills impressions, sun dries and cracks, animals cross over. The earth is always rearranging itself. It is gentle, but it is busy. So when footprints survive, it feels almost like luck. But it isn't only luck. It's also a very particular set of conditions that must come together quietly at the right time. Imagine the ground in the perfect state, not too dry, not too wet, soft enough to receive an impression, firm enough to hold it. Maybe it's mud on the edge of a lake. Maybe it's fine ash after a distant volcanic event settled like powder. Maybe it's damp sand in a sheltered place. A foot steps down. The toes press. The heel sinks slightly. The arch leaves a gentle curve. And then, before the print can be erased, something covers it. A thin layer of sediment. A sprinkle of more ash. A drift of sand. A small blanket of earth laid down by wind or water. Over time, that covering layer may harden. Minerals may cement the grains together. The footprint becomes part of the ground, preserved not as a hollow forever, but sometimes as a cast, a raised shape. The earth makes a copy of the foot's absence and keeps it. It's such a soft idea, isn't it? That the ground can remember the shape of a step, the way a pillow remembers the side of your face for a moment after you lift your head. When scientists find ancient footprints, they approach them with a kind of reverence, but also with careful calm. A footprint can crumble if exposed too quickly. It can be damaged by touch. So it's documented carefully, measured, photographed, mapped, sometimes scanned in 3 dimensions, so the details can be preserved without needing constant handling. And then comes the gentle work of interpretation. What can a footprint tell us? It can suggest size, and sometimes age, though always with uncertainty. It can suggest whether someone was barefoot, whether they carried weight, whether they moved quickly or slowly. A stride length can hint at a walking pace. The depth of an impression can reflect the softness of the ground and the weight of the body, but those variables intertwine and the story is never simple. Still, even simple things are meaningful. A line of footprints can show direction. It can show a path taken on a particular day, beside a particular shoreline, across a particular patch of mud. Sometimes footprints cluster, a few sets together, overlapping, moving in similar directions, and that can suggest something even more human, something warm, not certainty, never certainty, but possibility. Possibility of a group travelling together, a family, companions, people moving alongside each other as the light changed, as the air cooled, as the day leaned toward evening. You can imagine it without forcing it into a dramatic scene. Just small bodies and tall bodies, steps of different sizes, the ground quietly receiving them all. A set of tiny prints beside larger ones can feel especially tender. It suggests not only movement, but care and presence. Someone small staying near someone larger, or perhaps several small ones together, darting, turning. Children are often curious creatures in every era, and curiosity leaves patterns. But again, we hold the possibilities lightly. Science is gentle when it is honest. It says, here is what we see, here is what it might mean, here is what we cannot be sure of. Even dating footprints is a careful art. The prints themselves don't come with a timestamp, but the layers around them do. Scientists can date the sediment above and below, or date volcanic ash layers, or use other methods depending on the site. The footprints become part of a wider page in the Earth storybook. And the Earth storybook is calm. It does not hurry, it does not worry about being understood. It simply holds what it holds, until a careful hand comes along and tries to listen. Now let your mind rest in a soft visualization. Imagine moonlight, silver and quiet, stretched across a flat open place. The air is cool, but gentle. The smells are faint, like damp earth, like distant plants. You're walking slowly, unhurried, the way you might walk if you had all night. Beside you, in the angled light, you can see shallow impressions in the ground. Not fresh, not wet, already part of the landscape, but still shaped like steps, still clear enough to follow. You don't have to rush after them. You can simply walk alongside as if you are accompanying a memory rather than chasing it. And as you walk, you might notice your own breathing matching the imagined steps. In and out. In and out. Your body, here in fear, and the body in the footprint, so far away in time, both following the same basic rhythm. How many journeys have vanished, softened by wind and rain, dissolved into ordinary earth? And how many quietly remained, hidden under layers until the day they were found? If that thought feels too big, let it become small again. Let it turn into one simple image. a single footprint, one step, one moment, and then back to your breath. Now very gently we'll move from open ground into a kind of room, a shelter, a cave. Think of how rooms feel in your own life. Some rooms feel bright even when they're dim because they are familiar. Some feel soothing because they hold quiet corners. Some feel safe because you know where everything is and nothing surprises you. A room can hold a mood. It can become a container for daily life, a place where the mind relaxes because the space is predictable. For early humans, caves and rock shelters were not just dramatic backdrops. Very often they were simply practical rooms made by geology. A cave is shaped by water and stone over long periods of time. Drips, flows, dissolving minerals, slow movements that no one can see in a single day. Over thousands and tens of thousands of years, hollow spaces form, sheltered spaces, places protected from wind and rain, places that hold a stable temperature compared to the outside world. Not every cave was lived in. Some were too damp, some were too dark, some were used by animals, some were simply passed by, but some became familiar, revisited, remembered. And just as rooms in your home collect traces of living, cave floors can collect traces of long ago life. Imagine walking into a cave with a soft lantern. The light doesn't reach the far corners. It pools where you aim it, warm and local. The air is cool. Sometimes it smells faintly mineral like wet stone. Sometimes you hear a drip, slow and steady, like a clock that has learned patience. Now imagine the ground. At first glance, it may look like ordinary dirt, but to an archaeologist, the ground is a layered surface and the layers are full of patterns. A place where people slept might show fewer traces of tool-making, fewer sharp fragments. A place where food was provided might show more bones, more plant remains, more burned material. A place where tools were made might show piles of flakes, little stone chips scattered, like a frozen shower of sparks. These patterns can suggest activity zones, the way a modern home has a kitchen area, a resting area, a place where you do work with your hands. Nobody needed to label them. They emerge naturally from habit, and habits are what evidence is made of. Not grand gestures, but repeated small choices. The idea of stratigraphy fits here, and it's a gentle concept once you let it settle. Stratigraphy is the study of layers. In a cave, over time, material accumulates, dust blows in, ash settles, small rocks fall, animals bring in bones, humans leave behind flakes and charcoal and footprints and fragments, then more dust, more ash, more time. The layers build like blankets stacked one over another. Each blanket is a chapter, and sometimes within a blanket there are small folds and threads, subtle changes that tell you something about what happened in that period. When archaeologists carefully excavate, they move through these layers slowly, recording where everything is found. They don't just scoop, they map, they document, they treat the ground like a delicate archive, because it is. And within that archive sometimes there are small objects that carry a special kind of meaning. A bead, for example, something shaped and pierced so it can be strung. It might be made of shell, bone, stone, a tiny thing that doesn't directly feed you or warm you. A tiny thing that suggests ornament, identity, perhaps communication without words. Pigments too. Red ochre, for instance, can be found at some sites used for colouring. Pigment might be practical in some ways, but also suggests symbolism, the desire to mark, to decorate, to represent. And then there are etched lines, small marks on bone or stone, not always art in the way we think of art, and not always interpretable, but still marks made intentionally. Marks that say someone wanted to leave a sign. Here it's especially important to keep the tone gentle and the science honest. We infer softly, not loudly. We hold possibilities lightly. A bead may be decoration, but it may also be functional. A pigment may be symbolic, but it may also have practical uses. An etched line might be art, or it might be a tally, or it might be the accidental result of scraping. The past does not always explain itself, and we do not force it to, but we can still feel the quiet wonder of it. The idea that early humans did not only survive, they also noticed, they also shaped, they also cared about appearance and meaning in ways that leave faint traces. Now let your imagination rest in the cave again. Picture dim light on stone walls, soft and uneven. A faint echo when you shift your weight. The slow drip of water and the way each drop has all the time in the world. The walls feel like they're holding their breath, not because they're anxious, but because they're old. They remember so much that they don't need to speak it all at once. What does it mean to leave a mark that outlasts your voice? A quiet question. A question you can let slide past you like water over smooth rock. You don't need to answer, you can simply feel the softness of being part of a long chain of living things, each leaving traces, most of them accidental, some of them intentional, all of them small in the face of time. And that brings us, very naturally, to time itself. Because when we talk about evidence left behind by early humans, we are also talking about how we know when it happened, how it fits into the long story. Time can sound intimidating when you stretch it out over hundreds of thousands of years. But we don't need to treat it like a vast empty space, we can treat it like a slow landscape, something you can walk through gently. Start with a familiar idea. The way you measure time in your own life. Calendars, birthdays, old photographs. The way a song can take you back to a particular year. The way a scent can bring back a specific afternoon. These are human clocks. They measure time in terms that feel personal. Deep time uses different clocks, but the intention is the same. To find where something belongs in the story. Not to rush it into a specific box, but to place it gently, like setting a book back onto the right shelf. One of the simplest ways to understand dating in archaeology is to think of older and younger before you think of exact numbers. If you have a stack of pages on a table and no one has mixed them, the top page was placed there after the ones beneath it. The bottom page was there earlier. Layers in the ground can work like that. In general, deeper layers are older, and layers closer to the surface are younger. It's not always perfectly neat, because the world can disturb layers, but the basic idea holds often enough to be useful. This is called relative dating. It gives you order. It helps you say, this tool came before that hearth layer, or this footprint sits between those two sediment layers. Absolute dating, on the other hand, tries to attach a number, a range of years, a window of time. There are different methods, and you don't need the details. But one gentle way to picture it is to imagine that some materials carry tiny clocks inside them. Atoms can be unstable, and over time they change at a regular rate. They decay from one form into another. This decay happens with a predictable rhythm, like a very slow metronome that does not get tired. Certain dating methods measure how much of a particular kind of atom remains and how much has changed, and from that, infer how much time has passed. It's almost like using an hourglass that never stops, except the sand is invisible, and the time scale is enormous. This is not magic. It's careful measurement built on physics. It's the same laws of nature that guide a stone flake to break in a certain way, the same basic regularity that lets embers glow, the same predictable behavior of matter. And maybe that's one of the most comforting wow moments when you let it be quiet. The universe is consistent. The rules are steady. Even when life feels messy, the underlying rhythms can be calm. But with dating, there is always uncertainty. And that is not a flaw. It is honesty. Scientists often speak in ranges. They might say something is around a certain age, plus or minus a certain amount. That plus or minus is an admission that measurement has limits. That the past rarely gives perfect answers, that nature does not label its layers with neat numbers. Error ranges are a kind of tenderness in science. They are the practice of not pretending, of saying we know this much and we don't know beyond it. And methods are often cross-checked, like overlapping lullabies that happen to match the same rhythm. If one method suggests a certain age, another method might be used to confirm it, and if they agree, confidence grows gently without fanfare. Now, let's soften this into imagery again. Picture time as softly falling snow, not a storm, just slow snow. Thin flakes settling layer by layer. Each layer changes the landscape a little. Each layer covers what came before, not to erase it, but to keep it safe, tucked away. Or picture time as a river, wide and patient. The river carries pebbles, sands, leaves. Sometimes it deposits them in quiet bends. Sometimes it reshapes the banks, but always it moves, steady, unbothered. If time is a river, what does it feel like to hold one smooth stone from its bed? A stone shaped by water's attention. A stone that has been touched by countless currents. A small object that holds the memory of motion without needing to tell you a story in words. You can keep that image if it comforts you, or you can let it drift away. And now, as we pause here at the edge of what we've explored, notice your breath again, in and out. You've been listening to stone and ash and footprints and cave layers and deep time clocks, but you don't need to collect any of it. You can let it pass through you like soft music. You can remember only the feeling if that's all that remains. The feeling that the past is not shouting, it's whispering, and that science, when it's careful, is a way of listening to whispers without turning them into noise. If you're awake, we'll continue next by letting these ancient traces connect gently to your own everyday life, to the natural world around you, and even to the wide, calm universe overhead. And if you're sleepy, you can let this be the place where you drift. Let your body be heavy. Let your shoulders sink. Let your jaw soften. Let your hands rest as if they've always belonged exactly where they are. The room around you is quiet. The night is patient, and you are safe here, resting, while the long story of the world continues to breathe slowly beneath the stars. If you're still awake, you're doing just fine, and if you've floated in and out a little, if you've lost a sentence here and there, that's exactly how this is meant to work. You can let the words be like a slow current under you, carrying you without needing you to steer. Take one gentle breath in and let it go slowly in and out. We've wandered through quiet evidence so far, the patient language of stone tools, the soft memory of ash and charcoal, bones and teeth holding time in their structure, footprints pressed into earth and caves collecting layers like blankets. We even touched on the calm idea of deep time with its steady clocks. Now, without hurrying, we'll let those ancient traces connect to your own life. Because one of the most soothing things about science, when it's offered gently, is that it can knit you back into the world. It can soften the feeling of being alone with your thoughts. So we'll move in a slow rhythm, from the distant past toward the everyday, from the everyday out toward the natural world, and then, if it feels comfortable, farther still toward the wide, quiet universe above you. There's no test at the end. No need to retain anything. You can simply listen and rest. Think about the objects nearest you right now. Maybe there's a phone on a bedside table. Maybe there's a glass of water. Maybe there's a light switch, a book, a blanket, Small human-made things arranged around you in a familiar way. These objects are modern, yes, but they're also part of a very old habit. The habit of shaping the environment with tools, the habit of making the world more livable, one object at a time. When early humans shaped stone, they were doing something deeply recognizable. They were extending their bodies into the world, making a sharp edge where there wasn't one, making a scraper, a point, a cutter, taking the raw material of the landscape and giving it a new purpose. We still do that, even on days that feel ordinary. A key is a tool that knows how to speak to a lock. A spoon is a tool that knows how to carry warmth to your mouth. A cup is a tool that holds a small pool of comfort. Even a blanket is a kind of tool. It changes your microclimate. It makes a little weather around you softer and safer. Sometimes it's calming to look at your own life through that lens, not as a list of tasks and worries, but as a gentle ecosystem of small inventions that support you. You are lying beneath fabric that has been woven, stitched, shaped. You are resting on a surface designed to hold your weight. You're in a room with walls that keep out wind and a door that gives you privacy, and maybe heating or cooling that changes the air. All of it is a continuation of something very old. A long line of quiet problem solving passed down not only through genes, but through ideas. And there's something else those stone tools remind us of. Use leaves marks. If you take a moment to imagine your own most used objects, you can picture the subtle changes they carry. A handle rubbed smooth at the spot your fingers always land. A button worn slightly shiny. A favourite mug with faint scratches where a spoon has stirred. Those small marks are your silent evidence. Not evidence for a scientist, perhaps, but evidence that you've lived, that you've repeated certain motions, that you've had mornings and evenings, that you've reached for comfort in small ways. It can be strangely soothing to think that the first humans also had repeated motions, also had habits, also had favourite places to sit, favourite stones to work, familiar rhythms that shaped their days. And then there is warmth, the steady thread of hearths. Even if you've never built a fire yourself, you probably know the feeling of being drawn toward warmth. It's such a simple animal truth. Cold makes muscles tighten, warmth makes them soften. A modern kitchen can be a kind of hearth, a place where heat transforms food, where steam rises softly, where a kettle sighs, where light gathers in the evening. A living room, too, can be hearth-like even without a flame. A place where you curl up, where you rest your feet, where people gather, or where you gather yourself back together. When archaeologists find evidence of ancient hearths, it can feel like finding the shape of someone's comfort. A small centre point around which a life rotated. And maybe that's part of why hearth evidence feels so tender. Because it speaks of rest. We often imagine the past as only struggle, but the evidence suggests something quieter and more human as well. Moments of sitting, moments of sharing, moments of waiting for food to cook, for the light to change, for the cold to ease. Even amid uncertainty, living beings find small pockets of calm. They create them when they can. A hearth is one of those pockets. So if you're lying in bed listening, you can let that connection settle into you. Your bed is a pocket of calm. Your blanket is a portable shelter. Your breath is a slow fire, warming you from the inside in a way you rarely have to think about. And speaking of breath, also, notice it again now. Not as something to control, but as something to follow, in and out. Sometimes the mind relaxes when it feels continuity, when it feels part of something bigger than today's thoughts. These connections can offer that, a soft belonging. Now, let's widen our circle a little. from the human-made world to the natural world that holds it all, because the evidence we've been exploring is not only human, it is also geological, it is also weather, it is also the slow work of wind and water, the quiet chemistry of soil, the steady rearrangement of landscapes. To preserve a stone tool in the ground, nature must be gentle in a particular way. The tool must be buried rather than smashed, protected rather than dissolved. A cave might shelter it, a layer of sediment might cover it. Time must move without too much disturbance. Nature in this sense becomes an archivist, not a careful librarian with white gloves, but a patient one, a librarian who files things away without labelling them, who stacks layers in the dark and doesn't mind if it takes 100,000 years before anyone comes looking. Wind is part of this archivist work. On some days wind is loud, but often it is subtle. It carries fine dust. It nudges grains of sand. It deposits thin sheets of sediment over open ground. Over long periods, these tiny deposits accumulate like soft blankets laid down again and again. Water, too, is an archivist, though it can be messy. It can erode and wash away, but it can also bury and preserve. A flood can cover a surface with fresh sediment, sealing what was there. A lake edge can receive footprints, then cover them with silt. A drip in a cave can deposit minerals that slowly harden layers. Even ash can be part of nature's filing system. Volcanic ash, when it settles, can create clear layers, a thin pale stripe within darker sediment. If you imagine a cake with layers, ash can be one of those distinct bands. And because volcanic events can sometimes be dated well, ash layers can act like bookmarks in the Earth's book. None of this needs to feel dramatic. You don't have to picture an eruption, you can picture ash itself, quiet and fine, falling like grey snow, settling softly over the landscape and then becoming still. So when we speak of silent evidence, we are also speaking of the partnership between human actions and natural processes. Humans make the marks. Nature decides gently and randomly which ones are kept. That partnership can feel comforting in a strange way. It suggests that the world is always working, always shaping, always holding. Even now in your own life, the world is recording things in subtle ways. Dust settles on shelves. Sunlight fades fabric over years. Water leaves mineral traces in kettles and pipes. Trees grow rings. Stones smooth themselves in rivers. The natural world is full of slow records, full of quiet evidence that change has happened, and the evidence left behind by early humans often includes animals too, not as frightening presences, but as neighbouring lives. Bones at a site can include the remains of animals that were eaten, yes, but also animals that lived nearby, animals that came later, animals that made their own marks. You might find gnaw marks on bones left by scavengers. You might find burrows, little tunnels made by small creatures cutting through layers. You might find pollen grains in sediment, tiny witnesses from plants, each grain shaped in a way that can suggest which species were present. Pollen is a particularly gentle kind of evidence. It's so small you can barely imagine it, yet it can survive. It can settle in caves, in lake beds, in wet places where oxygen is low and decomposition is slow. Under a microscope, pollen grains have distinct shapes, like tiny sculptures, and by identifying them, scientists can infer what plants grew nearby, what the climate might have been like, what kind of landscape surrounded a sea. So the story is never only human, it's always a whole environment. A chorus of quiet things, and if that feels like a lot, let it become simple again. Wind and dust, water and sediment, ash and time, each one laying down a gentle layer, each one helping preserve a faint human mark, the way a careful hand might press a flower into a book to keep it from disappearing. Now we can step back again, from the natural world to the larger stage, the vastness above you. The universe can sometimes feel too big, too cold, too indifferent. But tonight, we'll hold it differently. We'll hold it as a steady presence, a quiet ceiling over countless lives, a calm backdrop that doesn't need you to do anything at all. Remember our time bridge from earlier, the idea that the same stars were above the first humans. When you lie in bed and look up at the night, even if you can't see the stars from where you are, you can still imagine them, light travelling, space holding it. The sky turning slowly like a giant gentle wheel. Early humans looked up too. Perhaps they saw the Milky Way as a pale river of light. Perhaps they noticed the moon's changing shape. Perhaps they watched the rhythm of seasons, not with a calendar, but with a body that felt the temperature shift, the daylight lengthen or shorten. We can't know exactly what they thought. We don't need to. We can simply imagine that they too lived beneath patterns, and patterns are comforting. In science, one of the most soothing ideas is that the same physics applies everywhere. The fracture of stone depends on properties of the material and the force applied. Fire depends on chemistry and oxygen and heat. Radiometric clocks depend on the behavior of atoms, and those atoms, those rules are not different in different places. The universe isn't chaotic in its foundations. It is consistent. It is steady. Even starlight is governed by the same physical principles. The way light travels, the way atoms emit certain colors, the way gravity shapes orbits. So when you think about stone tools and ancient hearths, you can also think about the stars above them, and know that it's all part of one continuous system, one connected reality. That can be comforting when your mind feels scattered, because it suggests that beneath the surface noise of life there is a deep structure, calm and reliable, and then there is the scale of time. Human lives are brief, and sometimes that brevity hurts. Sometimes it makes worries feel sharper, because there's the sense of not enough time or too much to do, but deep time can soften that sharpness if you let it. Not by making your problems feel small in a harsh way, but by giving you perspective that is gentle. By saying many lives have come and gone, many minds have worried, many bodies have tired, many hearts have sought warmth and safety. The first humans left behind silent evidence not because they intended to speak to us, but because they lived. And living leaves traces. And those traces are now part of a story that stretches so far back that the mind can't hold it all at once. Which is why we don't try. We don't try to hold it all, we just hold a small piece, a stone flake, a charcoal smudge, a footprint impression, one small page. And in holding one small page you can feel how long the story is and how many times life has found ways to continue quietly. There's a kind of comfort in that, a soft endurance. Now, let's bring that cosmic view gently back down to something personal again. Not intense, just intimate. Evidence is a form of presence. When you find a footprint in the sand, you feel a person's presence, even if they're gone. When you find a worn handle, you feel that someone held it again and again. In archaeology, evidence is the remaining shape of presence. It's proof that someone lived, rested, learned, adapted. Proof that their breaths happened under the same sky, that they sat by warmth, that they walked across mud, that they chipped stone until it became usable. And that proof, though quiet, can feel like companionship across time. You might be lying in bed feeling alone with your thoughts, and yet the truth is that you are part of a human lineage so long and wide that it's almost like a landscape. People have sought comfort for as long as people have existed. People have tried to understand this world. People have watched light fade in the evening and felt their bodies ask for rest. The first humans Whoever exactly they were lived in worlds without modern stressors, yes, but also without modern comforts, and still there were moments of gentleness. The evidence hints at them. A hearth, a sheltered place, a tool made carefully, a path walked by more than one set of feet. Sometimes a mind at night likes to ask questions in a looping way, questions that keep it awake. But we can offer it different questions, soft questions, questions that don't demand answers. What traces do we leave without meaning to? The warmth in your hair, the way your body shapes the sheets, the way your favourite items gather near you. The way your footsteps have worn a path in your home, maybe so subtly you never noticed. The way your hands have learned certain motions, like reaching for a light switch without looking. These are not monumental traces, they're quiet. But they are real. And beyond physical traces, there are softer ones too. The way your presence affects others. The way a kind word can linger. The way a calm moment can become a memory that returns later, like a small lantern in a dark time. You don't need to do anything with that thought. It's not a moral. It's not a request. It's simply a gentle noticing that existence ripples, even when it feels like it doesn't. Now, if your mind is still awake, we can linger a little longer in this web of connections, slowly zooming in and out like breathing. Zoom in to the feel of your breath at the nostrils, the coolness of air entering, the warmth leaving. Zoom out to your room, the quiet shape of it, the safety of walls. Zoom farther out to the landscape beyond your home, the ground layered with history, streets, soil, rock. Zoom farther to the planet turning under the night sky, continents shifting slowly over millions of years, not in a scary way, just in a patient way like slow dance steps. Zoom farther still to the sky itself, sprinkled with stars, light travelling calmly through space. And then, softly, zoom back in again, back to your body, back to your breath, back to this moment where nothing is required. If you notice yourself getting too thoughtful, too alert, that's okay. You can always return to something simple. Stone, warmth, steps, layers, hands and stones, warmth and ash, steps and earth, time and layers. Those pairs are like gentle anchors. They don't pull you down, they simply hold you steady. And here is another soothing idea tucked into everything we've discussed. The past is finished. It cannot hurt you. It cannot rush you. It is not demanding anything from you. It is simply there like distant starlight, reaching you softly. When we study the evidence left behind by early humans, we're not summoning something scary. We're listening to quiet echoes that have long since settled. It's like walking through a museum after hours when everything is still, and the objects simply exist in their cases, calm and intact. That's the mood we're keeping. Stillness, safety, gentle curiosity. Now you might notice that your body has been relaxing while your mind wanders. Maybe your shoulders feel heavier. Maybe your hands are looser. Maybe your face is softer. If not, that's okay too. There is no right way to rest, but if you'd like, you can consciously release one more small muscle group. Let your tongue rest in your mouth, not pressed to the roof, not tense. Let your lips soften. Let your eyes be heavy behind their lids, and let your exhale be long like you're fogging a window quietly, in and out. If sleep is near, you can let it come closer. You don't have to follow every word now. You can let sentences blur at the edges. You can let meaning dissolve into sound. And if you're still awake, we'll begin to slow in an even more dreamy direction soon. We'll shift from new connections to a softer, more meditative repetition. We'll let the information simplify. We'll let imagery become the main thread, like a calm walk under lantern light. For now, just rest in the gentle thought that you are part of a long continuity. Long before you, hand-shaped stones and tended small fires. Long after those hands were gone, the earth kept their traces. And now, here you are, breathing quietly in a safe place, listening. It's all connected by simple things. Hands, warmth, steps, him. Let those words be slow and spacious in your mind like stones placed carefully along a path. Hands and stone, warmth and ash, steps and earth. Time, layers. And as you breathe, you can imagine each pair settling like a soft pebble into a calm riverbed. Nothing to do, nothing to fix. Only rest and the steady kindness of the night continuing around you. If you're still awake, that's completely okay. And if you've been drifting, sinking down into the soft space between words, you can stay there. You don't need to come fully back. You can let your mind hover and sway like a lantern carried slowly through a quiet night, lighting only what it needs to light. Take a slow inhale, as if you're breathing in warm air, and let the exhale be longer, like a gentle tide pulling back from shore, in and out. Now, we'll begin to soften even more. From here, there won't be much new to hold. We'll revisit what we've already touched, but in a simpler way. Like walking the same path again at a slower pace, noticing fewer details, letting your body do more of the listening than your mind. We're returning to the silent evidence left behind by the first humans, not as a list, not as a lesson, more like a calm set of images, repeating in a soothing rhythm: stone, ash, bone, footprints, layers, and the quiet thread running through all of them, time. Imagine again that you are outside at night, a wide, patient sky above you. The stars scattered gently, not demanding attention. The air cool and still, the sound of the world lowered, as if everything is speaking in whispers. In your hand you carry a lantern. The lantern glow is soft. It doesn't shine far. It simply makes a small circle of light, a warm pool on the ground in front of you. And you walk slowly because there is no reason to hurry. Each step is easy. Each breath is easy. Each moment has plenty of space. As you walk, the lantern light moves over the ground, and within that moving glow, you begin to notice small things, not loud things, quiet things. A pale chip of stone catches the light for a moment, then fades again as you move past. A small piece of flint, perhaps, or a flake of chert. Something that looks ordinary until you see its edge. And then you realize it's been shaped, not carved exactly, not sculpted the way we sculpt clay, but shaped by a careful strike, a controlled break. Stone, a sharp edge made from a dull world. You can picture the hands that once held it, without needing to see their faces. Hands like yours in the basic way hands are hands. Fingers that wrapped around an object, a thumb that steadied it, a wrist that knew the angle of motion, a tap, a click, a small flake released, like a quiet secret. And in that small moment a tool was born, not a complicated tool, just a useful edge, a small act of transformation. Hands and stone. Let those words settle in your mind like smooth pebbles. Hands and stone. If your thoughts wander, that's fine. You can come back to the pair whenever you like. Hands and stone. Your lantern light moves on, and now you see in the ground a faint circle. A place where the earth looks slightly different. The colour is altered, subtle, as if the soil remembers heat. Ash perhaps, charcoal. Tiny dark flecks, the evidence of warmth. Not the flame is long gone, but the memory remains pressed into the earth. A thin page in the ground's slow storybook. You picture a small fire, not big, not wild, simply tended. A circle of light in a darker world. A place to sit, a place to warm your hands, a place to eat something slowly and feel it become energy. The ember glow in your imagination is gentle, like sleepy red stars resting on the ground. Warmth and ash. Warmth and ash. As you breathe out, imagine that warmth moving through your body now. Not as a dramatic heat, just a comfortable easing, as if your muscles are remembering what it means to soften. Warmth and ash. The lantern light slides onward, and in the quiet of your imagined walk, you come to a patch of ground that looks smoother, like dried mud or fine silt. The light grazes it at an angle and something appears. A shallow impression, a footprint. Not crisp like it was made today, but still there, still shaped, still unmistakably a step. Toes, a curve, the gentle dip of a heel, a moment of movement, a body passing through. Footprints have a particular tenderness. They are evidence without intention. Most steps are not made to be remembered. They are simply made, and yet the earth sometimes holds them, covers them, keeps them safe under a thin blanket of time. Steps and earth, steps and earth. If you like, you can match your breathing to those imagined steps. In as the foot lifts, out as it settles, in and out, steps and earth. You don't need to follow the footprints anywhere. There is no destination. You can simply walk alongside them for a moment as if you are accompanying a memory. Your lantern moves, and the ground begins to change beneath your light. Now the light catches a rock wall close by, rising up like a calm boundary. The opening of a shelter, a cave mouth perhaps, or a rock overhang. Inside the air is cooler. The sound is softened. A slow drip echoes somewhere, patient and unbothered. The lantern glow slides across the floor, and you imagine layers beneath it. Dust and ash and tiny fragments, stacked softly over time. Time and layers. Time tools and layers. A cave is like a room made by the planet, shaped by water's slow attention, then used sometimes by living beings who needed shelter. A place where wind is quieter, a place where warmth can linger longer. In a cave, everything that happens leaves a trace, even if it is only a tiny one. A flake of stone, a sprinkle of ash, a crumb of bone, a grain of pollen settling without anyone noticing. One layer, and then another. Time and layers. You might picture the layers as blankets laid down one by one. You might picture them as pages. You might picture them as snow falling quietly, covering and keeping. Time and layers. And here you can let the images start to repeat in a gentle cycle, like a lullaby that returns to the same melody. Stone, ash, bone, footprints, layers. Stone, ash, bone, footprints, layers. A small mark. A long time, a quiet story. Small mark, a long time, a quiet story. Let those words drift through your mind slowly, without needing to hold them tightly. A small mark, a long time, a quiet story. There's something soothing about repetition when it's soft. It lets the mind stop grasping. It lets the body sink. So we'll keep moving in this gentle rhythm, a small mark, a long time, a quiet story. Now, bring your attention for a moment to the feeling of your bed beneath you, the way it supports you without asking you to do anything. Notice the weight of your body and how the bed holds it. Notice your breath moving in and out. And as you listen to the words, you can imagine that you are still holding the lantern, still walking slowly, but you don't need to picture every detail. Just the feeling of slow movement, the feeling of a calm night, the feeling of light gliding over quiet evidence. Sometimes the lantern light finds bone, not in a frightening way, just a pale curve, a small fragment resting in the earth like a seashell washed up on shore. Bones are quiet libraries, not because they contain everything, but because they contain something. A hint of diet, a whisper of environment, a sign of growth and change, a record of time, bone and time, bone and time, and teeth, too, like small stones inside the mouth, carrying faint lines that speak of early years, early seasons, early stresses that passed. You don't need the details now, you can let it be simple. The body remembers, the earth remembers, in different languages, but with the same patience. The body remembers, the earth remembers, a small mark, a long time, a quiet story. As you breathe, let the exhale lengthen again, as if you're releasing the day through your ribs. In and out. Your lantern light moves again, and the world stays calm. You might hear the faintest wind outside the cave, like a slow hand moving across grass. You might imagine distant insects, a soft rustle, a night that is alive in quiet ways. And the evidence remains quiet too, not dramatic, not urgent, just present. This is one of the gentle truths of science. When it's approached with care, it doesn't need to force the world into a story. It can simply notice, it can simply describe. It can say, here is a stone flake, here is a hearth layer, here is a footprint, here is an etched line, here is a bead. And then softly it can ask, what might this mean? But in this drift phase, we don't even need to ask too much. We can let meaning soften into feeling. We can let the past become a calm presence, like distant starlight. Because the past is finished. It cannot rush you. It cannot harm you. It cannot demand anything from you. It is only there, resting in the ground, resting in layers, resting in small objects that survived by chance and patience. You are here, in bed, safe, held by softness, and it's okay if you fall asleep at any moment. If you do, the words can keep moving gently without you. If you stay awake, we'll keep drifting together. Now we'll return to the lantern path again, in a slightly slower, more meditative way. The lantern glow moves. It reveals a stone flake, a small mark, a long time, a quiet story. It reveals a circle of ash, a small mark, a long time, a quiet story. It reveals a footprint in hardened mud, a small mark, a long time, a quiet story. It reveals a cave wall, cool and still, a small mark, a long time, a quiet story. And as these phrases repeat, your mind can let go of the need to visualize sharply. You can let the images blur into one gentle wash of sensation. Warm light, cool air, soft dust. Quiet stone, warm light. Cool air, soft dust. Quiet stone. These sensory pairs can become like a slow rocking motion. Warm light, cool air, soft dust. Quiet stone. You can even imagine the lantern glow as the warmth of your own breath. The inhale brings in cool air, the exhale brings out warm air. In, cool, out, warm, in, cool, out, warm. Let the rhythm soothe you. Now we can add little more softness, a little more repetition, a little less explanation. Stone shaped by hands, hands shaping stone, stone shaped by hands, warmth, remembered in ash, ash holding warmth, warmth, Remembered in ash, steps pressed into earth, earth holding steps, steps pressed into earth. Time stacked in layers, layers made of time, time stacked in layers. And if your mind tries to grab one of these and think about it too hard, you can let it slip gently away, the way you might let a feather float down instead of catching it. No need to analyze, no need to remember, just let the phrases rock you. Stone, hands, warmth, ash, steps, earth, time, layers, stone, hands, warmth, ash, steps, earth, time, layers. Now, in the lantern-lit scene, you might imagine yourself pausing. You sit down somewhere safe, perhaps just inside the shelter, where the air is still. The ground beneath you is cool, but you're not uncomfortable. The lantern glow is nearby, steady and warm. You look at the ground, and in the soft light it seems less like dirt, and more like a surface made of time. So many small things embedded, so many tiny stories folded into each layer, and you don't feel overwhelmed by it, because your mind is allowed to be small tonight. Your mind is allowed to rest. You don't have to hold all of deep time. You can hold one breath, in and out. You can hold one image, a single footprint, a single flake of stone or a single circle of ash. One small mark, one long time, one quiet story, one small mark, one long time, one quiet story. Let the words become slower. One small or mark, one long time, one quiet story. Now consider for a moment how gentle it is that the earth keeps things. Not everything, but some things. A footprint is kept because it was covered at the right moment. A tool is kept because it was dropped, lost, buried, and the conditions were kind enough to preserve it. A hearth is kept because ash settled and was sealed. A bone is kept because the chemistry of the place allowed it to endure. It's almost like the world sometimes tucks things away, the way you might tuck a note into a book, not for any grand reason, just because it happened. And then, far in the future, someone opens the book. Someone finds the note. Someone reads a small line of presence. Someone was here. Someone lived. Someone warmed their hands. Someone walked across mud. Someone shaped stone in slow light. You can let that thought feel comforting rather than sad, because presence is a gentle thing, and evidence is presence that has settled. Evidence is the shape of a life pressed softly into matter, and you too are matter. You are breath and warmth and weight. You are a quiet piece of the universe resting. That's all you need to be right now, just resting. Now, we'll let the lantern walk become even more dreamy. The lantern glow is steady. Your steps are slow, the air is cool, the light is warm, the ground is soft. The stone is quiet. The ash is quiet. The footprints are quiet. The layers are quiet. Everything is quiet. And the repetition itself becomes the path. Warm light, cool air. Warm light, cool air. Soft dust, quiet stone. Soft dust, quiet stone. A small mark, a long time, a quiet story. A small mark, a long time, a quiet story. If you notice sleep pulling at you like a gentle gravity, you can let yourself be pulled. You don't need to resist. It's safe to fall asleep here. The words are soft. The night is soft. Your bed is holding you, and the story is patient. Now, take another slow inhale, and let the exhale be the longest one yet. As you breathe out, imagine your body becoming heavier, as if it is settling into the bed the way a stone settles into a riverbed, finding the place where it fits without effort. Heavier shoulders, heavier arms, heavier legs, a softer face, a quiet jaw, a calm chest, in and out. will keep circling the same gentle pairs like a lullaby, returning to its refrain. Hands and stone, warmth and ash, steps and earth, time and layers. Hands and stone, warmth and ash, steps and earth, time and layers. You can hear them, or you can barely hear them. Either way is fine, and if you are still awake, we'll soon let the words thin out even more, and drift toward a gentle good night that doesn't end sharply, just fades like lantern light lowering. For now, you can keep resting in this soft, repeating calm. A small mark, a long time, a quiet story. A small mark, a long time, a quiet story. In and out. Safe, resting, drifting whenever you're ready. Just a soft moment to settle you again. Sometimes when you've been listening for a while, you drift so gently that you don't even notice it happening. You simply find yourself farther away from your thoughts, lighter, quieter. And if you're there now, you can stay there. If you're still awake, that's okay too. You don't have to make sleep happen. You can just let rest be enough. Take a small inhale and let it go slowly. In and out. We've been walking through the quiet evidence left behind by the first humans, stone-shaped into edges, ash and charcoal remembering warmth, bones and teeth storing time, footprints pressed into earth, layers in caves stacked like soft blankets of history. Now, we'll let everything become even simpler. Less explanation, more gentle repetition, more slow, dreamy imagery. You can imagine that lantern again, if you like. A warm circle of light moving slowly over the ground. Not searching, not hunting, just gliding. The lantern reveals a stone flake, a small mark, a long time, a quiet story. The lantern reveals a circle of ash, a small mark, a long time, a quiet story. The lantern reveals a footprint, a small mark, a long time, a quiet story. And all of it rests within layers, time and layers, time. Layers. Your mind doesn't need to do anything with these phrases. They can be like the sound of rain on a window. Present, steady, soothing while you sink deeper into the bed. If you notice any tension still in your body, you can release it in small pieces. Let your shoulders melt down. As if warm water is running over them, let your hands rest fully, fingers loose, palms soft. Let your legs be heavy, as if the bed is gently drawing them downward. And let your breath be slow, in and out. Now imagine the feeling of warm light on cool air. Warm light, cool air. Warm light, cool air. Ugh. Like a lantern on a quiet night. Like embers in a dark shelter. Like starlight on a calm landscape. Warm light, cool air. You can let your mind float between those images without attaching to any one of them. Stone, ash, bone, footprints, layers, stone, ash, bone, footprints, layers, and underneath always time. Time that doesn't rush, time that doesn't demand, time that simply moves like a slow river. If time is a river, you don't have to swim against it. You can rest on the surface held up gently. You can let it carry you towards sleep, the way water carries a leaf, in and out. Now, we'll return to the soothing pairs again, with a little more space between them, like a lullaby slowing down. Hands and stone, warmth and ash, steps and earth, time and layers, hands and stone, warmth and ash, and earth, time and layers. You can hear those words clearly, or you can let them blur. Either way is perfect. If your mind starts to wander into worries, you can let those worries become part of the landscape too. Not something to fight, just something you notice and pass by. A thought is like a footprint in sand. It appears, It lingers for a moment, then it fades. You don't have to chase it, you don't have to fix it. You can let it soften and disappear under the gentle tide of your breathing. In and out. In and out. Now, imagine a cave again, not dark in a scary way, but cool and safe like a quiet room made of stone. There is a small warm light somewhere behind you. The walls are still, the air is calm. On the floor, time is layered softly. Dust, ash, tiny fragments, all resting, and you too are resting. Your bed is your shelter. Your blanket is your warm layer. Your breath is your steady light. Warmth and ash. Warm breath and quiet room. Warm breath and quiet room. Let your exhale lengthen, as if you're releasing everything you no longer need to hold. Now, in the lantern's glow, you might see the evidence again, not as information, but as comforting shapes. A smooth stone edge, a pale dusting of ash, a gentle footprint, a layered floor. Small marks held by long time. Small marks, long time, quiet stories. Small marks, long time, quiet stories. Let the phrase repeat like waves. Small marks, long time, quiet stories. Small marks, long time, quiet stories. If you're drifting, you can let the words become farther away, like voices in another room. You can still feel their calm, even if you don't catch every syllable. And if you're still awake, you can keep following the slow rhythm, letting it guide you the way a lullaby guides a child, not by force but by kindness. Now, notice again how safe you are. The past is finished. The night is quiet. Your body is here, supported. You don't have to solve anything. You don't have to plan anything. You can let everything wait until tomorrow. In and out. Hands and stone, warmth and ash and pups and earth, time and layers. As you listen, you might feel as though you're sinking slightly with each exhale, as if the bed is receiving you more and more, like soft earth receiving a footprint, sinking gently, settling gently, resting gently. Now we'll let the words become even softer, even more open-ended. Warm light, cool air, soft dust, quiet stone. Warm light, cool air, soft dust. Quiet stone, a small mark. A long time, a quiet story, a small mark. A long time, a quiet story. And you don't need to carry any of it. You can let it drift. You can let it find. You can let yourself fall asleep right here, right now, if that's what your body wants. If you're already asleep, the words will keep moving gently without you. If you're still awake, you can stay in this calm space a little longer. There's no sharp ending, only the feeling of lantern light lowering, only the feeling of night continuing, only the feeling of being safe enough to let go. Good night. And if you need a little more time, you can take it, in and out. Warm light, cool air, small mark, long time, quiet story.